There we go. Hi, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, do you want to tell us about you?
Sure. So I'm Momma Foxfire. I am a mental health advocate, variety gamer. I stream on Twitch. I have a Mental Health Monday podcast that I do a talk show live and then turn it into a podcast fairly inconsistently. I'm also a mom, hence the name Momma Foxfire. I have two kiddos, two bonus kiddos, and a grandson now. And then also lots and lots of pets. I've got two dogs, a cat, a turtle, some fish, and five snakes.
What kind of fish?
Cichlids.
Nice.
I've got an albino peacock cichlid. I've got a blue acara and a green terror and
Yes.
a Dubois cichlid and a Jack Dempsey cichlid. Yes, those are
Oh,
the
so
ones, I
that's
think.
a mix of South American and
Hmm.
African. Okay, yeah, I
Yes.
had a
Yeah.
terror too. Absolutely love that fish. I had a Jack Dempsey that was gorgeous. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love them. They're basically like some of them get the size of a piranha, but they're gorgeous and they're
They get
vegetarians.
big. Yeah.
They're mostly
Well,
vegetarians.
yeah, I was going to say some of them are and some of them aren't, but they're also the only ones that can like fend for themselves in a tank with my turtle.
Oh yeah,
so,
they're
so I
naughty
have to get the
sometimes.
really aggressive ones. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I had an electric yellow. I think that was kind of what started my love for cichlids. And then a
Yeah, they're
buddy of
so
mine,
pretty.
yeah, yeah. Well, and when you're used, I mean, I had Grammies and I liked cardinal tetras, which a lot of people don't know
Mm,
about those. They get the neon tetras, but the cardinal tetras have the red and the blue all the way across their body.
yep.
So they're just vivid. So I mean, I had those, but then when I got into cichlids, the colors, especially on the South American ones, are just absolutely incredible, and they get
Yes, it's
huge.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I like fish.
I do
Yeah, I
too.
got into salt and stuff later. I don't have anything right now because I go too far with it very, very
Hmm.
quickly. So it's like, okay, let's reel this in for a while. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've kind of had a little bit of all of it.
I would love to have a saltwater tank, but part of me is grateful that I don't have a saltwater tank because last year, almost exactly a year ago, I'm in Texas. And so whenever that big storm happened, all of our fish died. Like all of our fish and two of our snakes died because we were out without power for 4 days and got down to 35 degrees inside the
Jeez.
house. So I was grateful that I didn't have a saltwater tank because that shit would have been expensive. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
Okay, because that would have been really expensive. Because I'll just let it slip and then but
Oh
I can
yeah. No.
control it if I need to because I do have
No.
kids and I do control it around them.
Right. I know I control it professionally. It
Yes.
depends on my
Yep.
audience. Yeah, I try to kind of like keep control of it, so at least I'm making a decision. But that isn't always the case. So the funny thing with salt, though, the thing that I never should have heard was that the bigger the setup, the more stable it is.
Oh
So
no, that's a trap.
obviously you should get the 150 gallon.
Clearly, that makes sense. I mean,
Clearly.
it just makes sense.
Yeah, I basically set up the entire tank. I used an overflow, and then I had the filter down below, and I just did natural filtering. I put some rocks
Hmm.
down there and that kind of thing. I stayed away from bio balls because I found that they had some nitrate issues.
Yeah.
But I did, I think I did like over 100 pounds. I had like 150 gallon or 135 or something like that. It was like 24 inches tall, and I think it was 24 front to back too, and it was 6 foot.
Hmm.
I could literally get in it. I didn't, but I
Oh my
did. I
gosh.
did put a snorkel mask on though and stick my head down in it because you got to do that once. But
Yeah.
I basically did the entire setup for what's it called? It's the Mandarin dragonfish. Is that what it is?
Oh, I don't
Mandarin
know.
goby. You know what I'm talking about? No. They're
Mm-mm.
gorgeous. It's Mandarin something. It's an absolutely gorgeous fish. It's got all the crazy coloring. I'll send you a link. But yeah, I basically did
Yeah.
the whole setup. But they won't eat human provided food. They only eat copepods and amphipods. So
Oh
you
wow.
have to build the environment. You have to let the tank mature, and you have to have a surviving population of these little itty bitty micro shrimpy thingies. Oh, he was a dragonet. Mandarin dragonet, I think is what he's called. I'll send you a picture. Yeah, super cool. But yeah,
Sounds
salt's
cool.
pretty great.
Yeah. I would love to get there someday, but for now, we've got enough pets that I don't need to add a new one. I do have So the turtle right now is in a 55 gallon and he's getting to the size. He's just about 2, I think. He's getting to the size where he's got plenty of room in the 55 gallon right now. But I have a 100 gallon to move him into, but I'm moving soon. And so I'm like, I'm not setting up the 100 gallon until we move. And then I'll set up the 100 gallon, move him into that. And then I'll just have the other tank for just fish at that point. So
There you go.
it'll be good. I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And then you'll be
We'll
like,
we're also upgrading some of the snakes at some, like probably along the same timeline. Whenever we move, we'll probably upgrade a couple of the snakes and then I'll have some empty tanks. I don't know what I'll do with them.
I was going to say, you're going to be like, yeah, I've got room for some fish.
Mm.
Nice. Do you have a really good pet store or fish store near you?
There is a really good pet store fish store in Fort Worth. But honestly, like I shop mostly on liveaquaria.com, not affiliated or anything like that, but it's a good website. They're very reputable, and I have never had any issues with delivery. Of course, they won't deliver during certain times, especially in Texas when it's too hot, but never had any issue with any fish delivery or anything. They're really great.
Nice. Yeah, the thing I wanted to get into that I honestly don't know if I ever will because I would actually need a chiller. But we've got, so the Pacific Northwest has some really great aquatic flora. I don't know what to call it. And you'd have to have a chiller though. But I think the next level up for me would be like getting a tank that is natural Pacific Northwest aquatic stuff. So yeah, it's just I don't know about the chiller piece of it because if it fails,
Yeah.
yeah, and it would have to be salt water. So you can't dump ice into it, you dilute it. So
Right.
yeah, probably not going to happen. It's just kind of one of those, that'd be so cool ideas that
Yeah.
won't come to fruition. What about the snakes? What are they?
So I have 2 ball pythons, and actually my 15-year-old has a ball python, and then I have a ball python. And then we have 2 Brazilian rainbow boas and 1 accidental adoption of a corn snake.
Oh, that's cool. Accidental.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a rescue.
Well, my cousin had this corn snake, and I think it's a snow morph. I'm not really sure. Don't know how old it is. Don't really know a lot about it. He seems to still be growing though. He's very nice to handle. Like he's a very active snake, very active to handle, where the ball pythons, like you can literally just hold them and they're there. The Brazilian rainbow boas are a little more movie, but like you hold Spyro and he is literally just like he's like holding a coat hanger that has weight on the end of it. He's just so wiggly. But my cousin was going to be moving and she was like, my new apartment won't take reptiles. And she goes, maybe I'll just release him. And I was like, no, I'm going to get him.
Oh, that's cool of you.
So I got him, and I'm so glad because it was like a month or 2 before that snowstorm, before that winter storm, Ida or whatever. Not Ida, that's the one now. Whatever it was called, the bad one. I'm glad that we got him and he lived through the freeze and everything. But man, that was just good timing that we got him, good timing that we were able to take care of him. And now he's sitting there fat and happy right next to me.
Nice. Now, I know that people that don't have snakes and fish tend to say that they don't think they have personalities. What do you think about, yeah, I think, especially cichlids, when they will swim right up to you and make you go cross-eyed, I think they absolutely have personalities.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the fish, not on, like a lot of people say, oh, well, they just learn the patterns. Like, no, they know when it's feeding time, and it's only feeding time once a day. But anytime you go up there, they're going to do whatever it is they're going to do. My smaller ones, my Dubois and the Jack Dempsey, they're pretty timid. So if you walk by, they're more likely to swim along the bottom and kind of like go hide somewhere. But the bigger ones, they're very, very active. They're like, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? And then the snakes for sure have personalities. I mean, you can absolutely. So we got 2 Brazilian rainbow boas and 2 ball pythons, same species, completely different personalities, and it's one of those things like it's not, you can't really consider it to be a training kind of thing because we treat them essentially all the same, right? But yeah, no, they definitely do.
Awesome. So switching topics a little bit, you are a mental health advocate. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I became a mental health advocate mental health has always had an impact on me. Obviously, it has an impact on everyone. My favorite statistic to kind of throw around is that 1 in 5 Americans will deal or struggle or face something having to do with a mental illness this year. In a single 12 months, that's 1 in 5. If you expand that to over a lifetime, it's 1 in 2. So even if you never face a mental health challenge, someone that you know has, and so it still impacts you. So 100% of us are impacted by mental illness and mental health challenges. And so that's kind of been there. I had postpartum depression with my oldest. And then I had it also with my youngest. And it's one of those things where I kind of took care of that with medicine and then went through some things in my life. I went to therapy for some stuff and didn't really work out for me. And then in 2017, my grandfather went missing and he was never found. He's still missing. But one of the theories around that is that he either died to suicide or was murdered. And so with those two being the options, like in either of those cases, if he died to suicide, if he had felt like he could reach out and get some help, then that could have been avoided. If he was murdered, then whoever did that, if they had reached out and gotten some mental health help, that could have been avoided as well. And so to me, like that passion and that drive really comes from that incident in my life, even though I was impacted well before that. That incident in my life is really what kind of made me think, gosh, if someone had just worked on lessening that stigma a little bit and trying to make it clear that, hey, you're a retired fireman and maybe you weren't brought up to talk about your feelings or to seek out help. You're the one that goes into the fire to help people. You're not the one that seeks out the help yourself. And it's one of those things that if he had felt like he could talk to someone or if whoever did something felt like they could talk to someone, then definitely that whole situation could have been avoided and my kids would still have their papa. And so it's one of those things like I started doing what I do because of that. And it's just grown from that into something that I'm really passionate about. I mean, I have a community on Discord and we do all kinds of gaming together, but we also have a whole section on mental health. And it's the way that people engage with that kind of content, the way that people engage on Twitter, the people I've met through doing this, it's absolutely incredible. And on the one hand, of course, I wish that that hadn't happened. But on the other hand, I'm so glad that it led me to doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah. So one of the things that I saw in one of your videos, you made like this fantastic point, and you kind of just led into it, where you just basically discussed that if people are having a hard time, if they would have reached out. But the thing that you mentioned is when someone is not in depression, when they're in kind of a better headspace, it's helpful to reach out to them and say, hey, when that happens, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I remember that conversation because whenever you are having a really shitty day or you are having, I mean, it's looking a little brighter today, past couple days, but for the past couple weeks, I've been in a really dark headspace. And I've had people, because I'm very open and honest about that with people. I'm like, hey man, I'm having a hard time like putting my feet on the floor in the morning right now. So I'm very open and honest about that. And I have people ask me, what can I do? How can we help you feel better? And I'm like, I fucking know. I don't know. That's how am I going to tell you? I don't know how to help myself right now. How am I going to tell you how to help me? But one of the things that we talked about is just follow up after or talk to people before and say, hey, if you are ever in a place where you're not doing very well, what's the best thing that I can do? Can I call you and say I'm coming over? Can I call? I mean, COVID kind of ruined that a little bit, but can I have DoorDash deliver you dinner? Like those kinds of things and the little things. Do you want me to call you? Would you rather I text you? Do you want me to send you a message on Discord? You want me to reach out on Twitter? You want me to shower you with compliments? Like whatever it is that would help you, you're not going to be able to name that when you're having a bad day. And not just a bad day, but if you're in a really depressive state, you're not going to be able to name those things. But once you're out of that, once you're in a better headspace, then you can start naming some of those things. If I say, man, I would love it if my sister, and sis, if you're watching this, I'm not really, you're an example only, I promise. You do great. I love you. You do everything perfectly. But yeah, I love it if my sister would just message me if she knows I'm having a bad day, which she does already. So we're good there. But if she didn't, if I'm thinking that whenever I'm having a good day, I can communicate that. If I'm having a bad day, I'm not even going to think of it,
Mm-hmm.
but then if it happens, then it can help me in that moment. Another thing is just to make sure that you are aware of if someone has had suicidal ideations before. That's really important to ask people about if you know that they're having a hard time. A lot of people shy away from getting that blunt, but like I've talked to my kids about it because there's been a news story or something or whatever, and it's like, have you ever thought of killing yourself? Are you thinking of killing yourself now? Do you have a plan to kill yourself? Have you ever made a plan to kill yourself? Those questions are uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really important because if we would ask people more, it just serves as that pressure release to say, yeah, actually, I am thinking about killing myself, and I do have a plan, and I do have the means, and I was going to go through with it. And most of the time, you're going to get an honest answer. And so it's difficult to do. It's sometimes uncomfortable to do, but it's really important to do before a crisis happens
Mm-hmm.
and follow up after a crisis happens as well, because you're more able to communicate when you're not in crisis.
Yeah.
But yeah, support the people around you. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, of course it's uncomfortable. The thing though is that talking about it may be uncomfortable, but losing someone, nothing is more uncomfortable, and the grief that comes with that, and then all the I wish I would have. So it's like,
Yeah.
deal with the discomfort. They're
Yep.
worth it, you know. Um,
Absolutely.
so kind of building on this, what do you think the importance? So two-part question: what do you think the importance of social connection is, and how do you think online communities contribute to that?
Oh, I love this question. If you go on my YouTube and there is I think it's broken into, it might actually be the same video. Um, there's one on social connections in gaming. And so that one's a really good one to go and listen to a full-length interview with a mental health professional. That interview was great. But to me personally, the social connections are very important. And it's gonna vary on how much or not how many social connections you want to maintain. Because everyone has a different preference. I like a lot of people. I'm an extrovert. I'm a people person. I like to surround myself with people. I like to meet new people. I like to do different things. And then there are people who are introverted and they want just a few handful, maybe 10 really close personal connections, but they form those very, very deeply. Just because you're introverted doesn't mean social connections aren't important. It just means that those social connections are more critical to maintain. And so I think social connections are really, really important to have, especially right now with COVID and kind of the isolation that comes with that. It's difficult to keep up with people because we can't just go and do stuff. There's always this new variant. It's been going on 2 years. Everybody's tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking about it. But the reality is that it does impact every one of us every day still,
Mm-hmm.
whether you are adhering to anyone's advice or not, it still impacts you because those around you are or are not, either way. But so social connections, I think, are really important, not only for just your general like personality, but also for mental health, because those are the people that you can lean on. They're the people who, if you're having a really shit day, you can lean on them and you can communicate that to them and say, hey, I'm having a really dark day. And they can implement whatever support plan you've talked about before, or whatever it is that they are willing to do for you. They can implement that until you're able to get in to see your therapist. And so it's really important to lean on your therapist, but it's also really important to lean on that social system until you're able to get in to see them. And then as far as online communities and gaming, I think especially right now, I've been playing a lot of New World, and the community in New World, first of all, is very vocal. There's always posts on Reddit and the forums and YouTube and everywhere. But also the people in the game are a lot of fun to get to know. And I think that that's a big overlooked thing in gaming, is the communities that are in certain games, especially MMOs, but other games as well. The Dead by Daylight community is incredible. And you can meet some really cool people talk about stuff completely unrelated to the game while you're playing the game and just get to know them. And you find all these little connection pieces, and it's a really neat thing to do. Games like 7 Days to Die have a great community as well. And even stuff as small as a mobile game like Clash of Clans or something has a community. And those communities, once you plug into them, I think that they not only enhance your life as a gamer, but also enhance the gaming community itself and kind of expanding circles there. Because if you're using gaming as a hobby and you're kind of putting your free time into that, it's important to still feel that connection, and it can keep you from just, mind numbing, playing a game to escape. It can kind of plug you into something different instead.
Yeah, that basically has been my experience too. It's been a while since I got completely involved with an MMO, but there was one a few years back that I played, and I don't miss the game because I think the IP is actually being parted out by whomever bought it, but I miss my guild. And I actually
Yeah.
am still in contact on social media. We're on opposite coasts, but I'm still in contact with several of like the guild leader and some other people because we actually kind of became friends. So it's like they're real people with real lives, with kids and families, and I know all the kids' names, and they're real people. And yeah, I met them in a game, but back in the day we had to pay for TeamSpeak. Now Discord is free and you can throw on the headset and they're real people that you talk to and interact with and learn about, and their voice, and it's like that's connection. That's legitimate connection.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. I mean, so even before New World came out, we were on Discord calls almost every night just with the community, just to be like, hey, what's everybody doing? And we might be playing 12 different games. We don't
mhm.
even have to be playing the same game. And I think that's what's really cool is that you meet people who, even though maybe one person's playing Among Us and you hate Among Us, like Laugh for a Purpose. I don't know if you listen to his podcast. He's wonderful. I highly recommend him. Get his podcast anywhere. Laugh number 4, a purpose, and you'll find it. But so he first saw my stream when I was playing Among Us, and he sent me a message. I don't know, probably a month later, and said, I hate the game Among Us, but I like you. And it's one of those things that's like, you might be playing a bunch of different games. You might even not like the games that people are playing next to you while you're talking to them, but you can talk and you can still have a good time, and you can still, you can still have those connections, those human connections, because they are people. You might not think of someone that you're playing a game with as a person because you see an avatar and you see, Big Daddy 420 or whatever their name is, But it can get really annoying with the names, but it's still a person on the other side of it, unless it's a bot. That's a whole other thing.
Hey, they're a way to
But yeah,
farm.
you're right. Absolutely. But people have gotten married. Like they've met in the
Hmm.
game and legit in life gotten married. And that's the coolest thing,
Yeah. A lot of times we got abandoned though because people started dating. They start dating. They meet in the game. They start dating. They disappear, and it's like this is
Yeah.
not how this should work. But no, as far as names go, I think one of my favorites was War Crime. And he was an
War
awesome
crime.
guy. He was a blast. Like we had so many inside jokes, like the whole guild. Like it was just running jokes of. But yeah, there were so many people that were just a blast to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so switching back a little bit to mental health and in a very broad context, have you found anything helpful for processing how you're feeling?
So it differs person to person, right? Everyone's going to process differently. Some people need complete quiet. I have really found for myself it now, and I will say I don't journal all the time, but journaling helps me get out the big things. Big events in my life is whenever I pick up a notebook and I just write. Because as I'm writing, and the thing that I have to remind myself is whatever I'm writing, whatever I'm getting out doesn't make it true. Like whenever I'm journaling, I'm just stream of consciousness writing whatever I'm thinking I'm writing. And it kind of helps me take it out of my head and put it onto a piece of paper. And I make it a point not to read it. Like I don't go back and read it again. There have been cases where what I've written has gotten like so dark, I literally rip it out and throw it away. And so it's one of those things that just because you write it, just because you think it doesn't make it true. But writing it sometimes can really help you get it out. Also, things like meditation. are really helpful for some people, not for everyone, but for some people, meditation is really helpful. It just depends on the person. I think those are probably the biggest two things for me. Also reading and gaming, like those two things are really helpful for me. Reading I use kind of for escapism, gaming I use for connection. And so whenever I'm doing those two things, it's like, it depends on what I need in that moment. If I need to just kind of shut things down, turn off my brain, I read every night anyway. But sometimes instead of turning on a game or getting on a Discord call or whatever after my kids go to bed, I'll sit down and read instead. And so if I need that, I'll do that. If I would rather distract myself or talk about it with somebody a little bit differently, I'll turn on a game and hop in a call and talk to people in the game and talk to people who I haven't talked to in a while. And it's just one of those things that I think that processing and distracting yourself and also immersing yourself in something different, all three of those things can be really helpful depending on the context. Not a super good example right now because they're all cracked, but I also paint my nails to process a little bit because that's something that I can't do something else while I'm doing it. It's a self-care thing, but also at the same time, like every time I'm swiping that polish on or waiting for it to dry, because I can't do anything else, it's like I can't escape. I can't be writing, I can't be typing, I can't even really be turning the pages of a book or anything. And so I kind of just sit here and I have to, it's almost meditation, but more, less focused on meditating and more just kind of let's relax and just let myself be for a little while. So those are probably my top things. It's going to be different for everybody though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's all kinds of talk to your therapist about what would work for you because what might work for me with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder might not work for somebody with bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder. Like those kinds of coping mechanisms are going to vary based on what you have going on in your life and also your personality. So,
So with the pandemic, have you noticed any good changes in the gaming community? Like, do you think that maybe people are appreciating the community a little bit more because it's in some ways kind of all you have, depending on your circumstances?
yeah, that's actually really interesting. I hadn't thought about that before. I and my gut reaction is to say yes because I know one person, he was actually just talking about it today, who has been isolated because he had COVID and now he has the flu. Been in isolation for a month. And it's one of those things like he's on the call every night. He hops on to there every night and he's talking to people, whether he's in the game or not. Um, so I think that there is probably an appreciation of that a little bit. I think that there are also a lot of people who probably are leaning on gaming a little too much instead of processing through some things. So, which, everybody has to do that every now and then. It's understandable. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the community and social aspect of gaming has been very helpful. Whenever the pandemic first started, everyone was on Animal Crossing and like everyone's going to each other's islands and I don't have a Switch. I wasn't playing Animal Crossing, but people were posting about what they were doing and my kids were both playing it. And so it's kind of like, even though I'm here, my 15-year-old can message my niece on Animal Crossing through a little note, can visit her island, can go and do this stuff. And it's like that small connection, even though at the beginning of the pandemic, we were all on super lockdown and not able to see anyone. I think everyone was leaning on that really heavily. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's something that a lot of people overlook when they talk, hear people talking about, oh, gaming is bad. It causes violence. A, it doesn't. I've got a whole video on that too. But B, like there's a lot of really positive stuff that can come from that. And that gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that there's probably good and bad with the pandemic, but mostly good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like when you think about knowing someone, it's like what, if you define what that means and it's like, okay, knowing their thoughts, knowing their values, knowing what they sound like, being able to hear their voice in your head before they say anything, having those inside jokes with each other. Like when you look at the nuances of friendship and connection and your social connections, I mean, it's everything except for being in physical proximity of each other. I mean, so maybe you're not going to, if you were to see them down the aisle at a Target, maybe you won't know that that's them because you don't know how they move. But as soon as they say something, and then you don't skip a beat. So yeah, I think there's a ton of value in the gaming world. And yeah, what I do though is I use MMOs for the social connection when I want it, but I also tend to play like single player. Like I've been playing The Long Dark, which is a little bit stressful.
Oh, such a good game.
Yes, because it's a survival game. So it's like I face checked a bear last week, and it was like a 500-day tune, and I was just trying to finish up the achievement where you level ammunition making. So I would get the achievement with having all of the stats on one tune, and I'm just like running into a bear. It's like it was fine, it worked out, but there was that moment.
Good.
So I tend to do that when I kind of just want to clear my headspace and focus on something and quiet my mind down, because otherwise that doesn't happen. But then, yeah, when I want the connection and the laughs, I go towards the MMOs.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to what you said about the grocery store, because you're more likely to recognize someone who you've talked to from a game than you are your like third cousin twice removed, So maybe you've never met someone who you are blood related to. And does that really matter more than someone that you talk to every day and you would recognize their voice? Like I would say the better connection there is actually the gaming friend, So you just gotta put it all in perspective, and however you want to take those connections, that's what matters.
yeah. Have you looked into, and this may be like a big no, but have you looked into metaverse, blockchain games, all of that tech that's kind of coming up?
I really
It's
haven't. No.
monstrous. So once you start, yeah, I'm waiting to see what games come out. There's a lot of graphics and demos, but I think there's only one, maybe two that are actually playable. They look like they could be amazing. I'm definitely curious to see what happens with that, but I'm not really overly paying that much attention to it until there's kind of more meat to, I don't know,
Yeah.
dig into.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm really behind on like what's new and coming in gaming because I haven't been to a gaming conference in 2 years.
Yeah. What is it called?
And really, it's more than 2 years because even before that, like I hadn't gone to one in 6 months before the pandemic started. So it's like been 2.5 years
Yeah.
since I've been able to do all the preview stuff at the booths at the gaming cons.
Do you go to E3?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
I know you're a couple states away, but you're
Yeah.
I think you're closer than I am.
Yeah, it's I would love to, but the timing's never worked out for me. So
Yeah. Well, they've been doing haven't they been digital? I think.
they have,
Yeah.
but I haven't done.
Yeah.
I'm a little resistant on digital conferences just because I really like the in-person touch and feel aspect. Like that's what I like about conferences.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I'm a little like, eh.
Yeah, any cons. I mean, yeah, it's like I've been to a lot of expos. I haven't been to any Comic Cons, but I've been to a lot of expos and kind of like topic specific events. And yeah, it's like being there and my favorite thing, I kind of compare this to like junior college. Junior college had some of the absolute best instructors I've ever had because they were passionate. They were working on their PhDs, so they were like all about the thing that they were teaching the night class on. So when you go to these expos and cons, these are the people that have the passion about it.
Yes.
It's not just their job. They're the ones that want to just stand there and talk to you and appreciate every nuance that you noticed. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah. Okay, so switching topics a little bit. What are your guilty pleasures?
Oh, guilty pleasures, wine.
That's legit.
Definitely. Give me a good red wine and I'm there. I would also say like vampire movies. I know it's a lot of people look down on vampire movies, but things like the originals, which is not a movie, it's a show.
Mhm.
But those kinds of things like Supernatural, anything along those lines, I really, really enjoy sappy movies sometimes as well. But then, I mean, I guess my other guilty pleasures are just like painting my nails, but it's not, but again, like it comes down to that's kind of self-care and
Hmm.
self-reflection. And so it's not necessarily a guilty pleasure, even though if I say, oh, well, I do my nails every week, like the way that sounds, it sounds guilty pleasure-ish, but really I do it with purpose. And so it's a little bit different. And then I guess my other guilty pleasure is RuneScape, which is really an old game. It's 20 years old now, I think,
Yeah.
officially 20 years old. And I've been playing for 15 of those years.
Okay, I like that you just mentioned when you do your nails, you do it with purpose. It's something that I'm trying to work on myself. Is I tend to do everything very quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm just wired that way. And it was funny because someone I know was like, you'd enjoy things if you slowed down a little. And he's right. And it's like I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I spent so much time in corporate America or like what my deal is, but it's like it's a lot more fun to make some tea or coffee, turn the music on, and go and work on a garage project and not rush. So, do you want to talk a little bit about purpose and doing things with intention, or do you have any ideas on that?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I think that drive to just get things done really fast, I don't think it's from only corporate America. Like, I think that starts getting taught literally in kindergarten when they're like, you have 20 minutes to eat or you're not getting to eat. Like, I think it starts so early where this rush to get things done starts in school. And I'm not talking about hurry up, put your shoes on, we're going to be late. I'm talking about structured rush. And I think that starts way too early for kids. Not that anything is going to change. Not that I am trying to change anything because I just don't have the time to try to change everything. So that's not something I put on my list of things to take care of. But I think that structured rush really starts way too early and it gets instilled in you and it is so hard to break. As far as what we can do as adults with purpose, I mean, I picked painting my nails because it's got built-in time. Like it has, you have to wait 20 minutes between coats or your nails are going to just rub off. And so because it forces me to slow down, I had the same problem. It was just get this stuff
Hmm.
done. I don't care if it is making a cake, enjoying a piece of cake, like whatever it is, just let's go, get it done. And now it's over. And it's like you just don't get to enjoy it that much. But I picked painting my nails on purpose to kind of start doing that as self-care because not only did I enjoy it, so it is something that I already got pleasure out of doing, but also it has a built-in, you have to stop. You have to take your time with this or it's not going to look right or it's going to get messed up, in a few minutes. And so I think that if you can find something that does give you that padding where it's building something in or set a timer on your phone, and that sounds really counterintuitive, but set a timer on your phone and be like, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to work on this and I'm not going to do something else. I have a bad habit of like, I'm walking through the house and like, all right, this has to be done. And then I see something else like, oh, wait, that has to be done. And by the end of the hour, none of it is done all the way. Everything's done halfway. So um, pick something that gives you built-in time or build-in time for yourself and just say, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to work on this project and keep that phone in front of you. And if it hasn't been 30 minutes and you've already finished, go review it, like reflect on what you just did. Look at what you just did. If it's something physical that you can look at and be like, I did that. Good job, me. Now I'm just going to relax and not doing anything. Or if it takes you more than 30 minutes, reset that timer if you have the time in your day to do that, or schedule a time to do it again. And so doing it with purpose means not doing it with distractions. So I cook every night. And when I cook every night, I'm not doing it with purpose. I put on a podcast in my ears. I'm not paying attention to, oh, I'm going to chop this cucumber just the right way and it's going to be beautiful. I'm just like, chop, 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 put it in the bowl, put it with the tomatoes, put it with the onions, put vinegar on it. Like, that's it. Just do it. So I put a podcast in. So I don't consider that doing it with purpose. But if cooking's your thing, think about what you're doing. Think about the ingredients. Think about where they came from. Like do whatever it is and really put some thought into it. But also don't beat yourself up if you find yourself rushing because it is literally instilled from kindergarten on, at least in the US. I don't know about other countries, but at least in the US, that is instilled when you start school. And that is so early that you're not going to break it with a week or a month of trying to do something with purpose. You're just not. If you're already a rusher, it's okay to just give yourself a break. It's okay if you still find yourself rushing. All you can do is try again. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, actually that probably, I fit very well into that paradigm where I'm very logical and linear. So that type of, okay, here's the structure, here's the template, this is what we do, and this is how we do it. And I'm all about that. So yeah, I'm pretty much their ideal student as far as that time management, hurry and get things done as quickly. I don't even know if it's as efficiently as possible, but quickly.
Right.
Yeah, time is money. It's almost capitalist.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
So, aside from all the other things we've talked about, is there anything else that you do to build up your happiness?
So it's interesting that you bring up that question in particular because was it yesterday? It was yesterday. I'm going to hold up my phone here in just a second, and it's going to have a little reflection of the ring light. So you'll have to forgive me. Maybe you can find a better picture to put whenever you're editing. But let me find this picture. So just yesterday, we were talking about something that I saw on Twitter, and I had it up on my screen. And whenever I had it on my screen, my 8-year-old was brushing. I've got a bathroom right here. My 8-year-old was brushing his teeth, and this was what was on my screen. And it's got, it'll focus in just a second. Hopefully.
I got red pill and blue pill. I can't quite read it.
Okay.
Yeah, send me a pic. I'll add it.
Yeah. It's the Matrix, the guy holding out the red pill and the blue pill. Iconic moment, right? So the red pill is restart your life at 6 years of age with all the knowledge you have now. And the blue pill is $10 million in cash. And whenever I held that up, or whenever that was on the screen and my 8-year-old was brushing his teeth, and normally when he brushes his teeth, he'll come over and just look at whatever's on my screen because he's a nosy little butt just like I am. He goes, well, Mom, you should take the red pill. I was like, oh, baby, I would take the blue pill. And so he said, yeah, but think about, and I promise this will connect in just a minute, but think about all the stuff that you know. You would already know everything. Think about how good your grades would be. I said, baby, my grades were A's, except for chemistry, my grades were A's all the time. I graduated with a 4.0. Not that it has mattered a single day in my corporate life, not one. I said, but the $10 million in cash could help with things now. It could help with things. And I wouldn't want to change a single decision in my life because then I might not have you and I might not have your brother. And he goes, okay, but, money can't buy you happiness. And I was like, say anything about it buying me happiness at all. And I said, I'm not talking about happiness. It would just make some things a little bit easier. I said, you make me happy. I make me happy. My choices make me happy. And he said, well, you can't count on me to make you happy. That's not what you have kids for.
Okay. He is incredible.
Okay. All right.
How old is he?
Okay. He's 8. Some of the things that come out of his mouth are absolutely insane.
He's only 8.
He's 8 years old.
Wow.
So whenever I was I posted about this in the Discord, my sister actually said, well, what makes him happy? And so I went and asked him, I said, hey, baby, you're talking about kids aren't what can make me happy, but, so what makes you happy? And he goes, well, I make myself happy. And then he thought for a second, he said, and you make me happy, but I can't make you make me happy. So just me, I make me happy. I was just like, wow.
Wow. To have that solid of a grasp of abstract thought at 8.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen until 11 in development.
I know. Well, now the joke is he lived to be 99 and then he took the red pill. That's got to be what it is.
That is awesome.
It has to be what it is because some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is pure gold and wisdom beyond, kids say the darndest things, but a lot of the stuff he says is just huh? So I think to increase my happiness, of course my kids make me happy, whether they think that they do or not, they do make me happy. A lot of the decisions that I've made in my life have led to me being a little bit more happy, but also I think that a lot of my happiness comes from my processing of things and my choosing to not take things super personally a lot of the time makes a big difference for me because I am an overthinker. Mm-hmm. I can't sleep and I have insomnia. And so while I'm laying there trying to sleep, like the thoughts are just scrolling in my brain. And a lot of the times I just have to sit there and say, it's not in your control, even though you want it to be. You have to let it go. You can't go back and change what you did in the past. You have to live with whatever it is now. And the only thing you can do is take a step forward. You can't take a step back because it's not possible. Time doesn't work that way at this moment.
Yeah, right. Just wait.
Clearly, at some point, that red pill is going to come into play for my 8-year-old. But but yeah, I think that a lot of my own happiness just comes from the way that I force myself through that processing process. And whether that's a major event in my life and how I choose to handle it, it's recognizing that I'm choosing to handle things the way that I choose to handle them, versus just letting things happen to me. Not to say that I have never been in a place where I just let things happen to me and am like completely the victim, because I've lived through a lot of shit in my life. And so because of that, I've learned from everything that I've been through kind of how to handle and how to be happy in spite of everything that life throws at you.
Yeah.
So there's not like a secret. It's not like some super secret. Do these 5 things and you'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of have to roll with the punches of life.
If only it was that easy.
Yeah.
Here's the plan. Yeah.
For real.
So, okay, last question I have for you. What priority do you value now more than you used to?
What priority do I value now?
But more than you used to.
More than I used to. I think self-care, honestly, because that's something that I didn't prioritize for a really long time. I was in an abusive relationship, and I was essentially not like, traditionally punished, but punished for taking time to do things for myself. And because of that experience, and because I went to therapy and have talked through this, like I think that there's a misconception that you just wake up one day with some sort of answer. Like, it takes work. It takes work in therapy. But through a lot of work and through a lot of self-reflection and processing and therapy and all of the things that we've talked about already, I realized that I personally can't just sit back and be like, well, I can't do anything about it. I have to decide what I'm going to do about some things and decide to let the other things go instead of obsessing about them, which is what I used to do. I used to be very, very obsessive about things. And a lot of that was a trauma response. But, sometimes it wasn't a trauma response. Sometimes it was just me being me and not being able to turn my brain off. And so, I think self-care is one that I definitely take the time out for now. And I'll even tell my kids, like, no, this is self-care time. Here's something you can do for your own self-care if you want, or you can take care of that yourself, whatever it is that you're needing. And it's really important to take that time for yourself, and in whatever form self-care looks like for you, because it's different for every person. So as long as it's legal, not harming anyone else, whatever self-care looks like for you.
Yeah. No, I like
legal,
that.
Or you don't get caught and not harming anyone else.
Right. I think one of the things that we're really bad about, at least in the United States, is we like our colloquialisms, if that's the right phrase, where we like to say, be kind to yourself, forgive yourself, but we don't say what that means. What does that look like? So it's these ideas that we just kind of throw out there that they're just not tangible enough, I think, for some people to get a grip on. So I think, to your point of, there's some stuff that I had to let go of and it was okay. That's an example of giving yourself a break, being kind to yourself. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being kind to yourself can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people, just like self-care can. And also, you don't know what someone else is going through in their lives. And so if you internalize what someone else has done or what someone else has said, and you obsess over it, and you kind of go through something similar to what I did / do, it's really, sorry, my cat needs he gets very insistent.
He's adorable.
That he needs to be pet. He's a sweetie, but you never know what someone else is going through. You never know what their self-care looks like. And so I just want to caution people to not judge other people for doing something that they say is self-care. Someone says doing their nails is self-care, then it's fucking self-care. If someone says going to get their nails done is self-care, that's self-care. If someone says coloring is self-care, that's self-care. Like whatever it is, going for a drive, whatever it is, gardening, anything. As long as you are doing it with purpose and with intent, that is being kind to yourself because you're taking the time out for yourself to make sure that you're fulfilling your own needs. And my 8-year-old is right. You can't rely on other people to make you happy. Does that always mean your brain is making the happy chemicals? No. And sometimes you might need to do something to prompt some of those happy feelings. But you can't rely on someone else to cause those for you. You have to find something that you can do, that you can control, that you can do on your own. And I think that makes a big difference. And just being kind to yourself, it sounds really, it's really cliche. Okay, buddy, I'm right here.
He's so cute.
It sounds really cliche to say, be kind to yourself, but it does make a big difference. And that being kind to yourself doesn't mean go spend all your money on some big dessert. Sometimes it's petting a cat.
He's so sweet. I like the gentle reaching. Mine abandoned me.
I know. He's very good about soft paws, so he very rarely will actually put his claws out.
Yeah.
But he'll bite.
Yeah, no, mine, she has I just saw the murder mittens joke, the meme, and yeah, she's got the murder mittens, and she knows it, and she embraces it fully, so.
Do you have murder mittens? You don't use them though, so that's what we care about.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate what you do.
Thanks.
Keep it up for sure.
Thanks.